This lecture is about minimally processing of fruits and vegetables. So this presentation looks at the category of minimally processed fruits and vegetables, things that have very little done to them and are still fresh. And it's changed dramatically in modern times. A lot of people never really thought about minimally processed. It wasn't very much available, especially the ready to eat stuff. It wasn't necessarily considered safe. And now that we have new processing, washing techniques, et cetera, there's a lot of changes in this area over the course of the last 15, 20 years, which has really changed things. And so if we look at a typical family, they tend to be busier, cook at home less. They tend to have different schedules between the different family members. The idea that, you have this traditional family where the kids go to school, they all are home at 3, mom stays at home and prepares the meals while dad goes to work, and around 5:30, everybody sits down, maybe 6 o'clock, everybody sits down to a meal that mom prepared. That vision isn't as common as it used to be. And I would argue that it wasn't as common as people thought it was back when that was the stereotypical lifestyle anyway. But now we're accepting the fact that it's not as common and that we have to do things differently. People eat on the run, people grab foods to go in ways that they never did before. So we need ready to eat foods or ready to cook foods that are much easier to handle for people in the modern family. So why is that? What are the changes? Well, in the past, you could always just grab a bowl of cereal, but a lot of cereals are filled with sugar and not necessarily the healthiest thing, or snack items, chips and nuts and other things that you might grab on the go. Chips, not healthy, nuts, high in sodium, usually if they're salted nuts, and they should be eaten in small doses. They're a snack item that is great for you. I highly encourage people to include nuts in their diet, but that's not something you want to eat too much of, especially the salted kind, the candied kind. So people are also more aware of what's in their food, the chemicals, preservatives, things that might encourage people to buy something else. Instead of a can of peaches, you might want to just grab a peach. What's in that can that you might not know? And I think there's a lot of myth in people's minds about what's in there. But some foods, there are definitely a lot more ingredients to stabilize, to prolong shelf life, things of that sort. Just as an example, I bought 2 different kinds of muffins, and typically the fresh baked bakery muffins had to be eaten within 2 days or they would start to mold. But the ones that were cooked in bulk in a package and name branded muffins lasted much longer. So newer methods of processing are also being pioneered to suit these changing needs. Many of them have already become standards, like the modified atmosphere packaging with oxygen transmission rate, OTR films for our salads and vegetable snack packs and things like that. All kinds of things that we'll learn about Minimally processing can provide fresh and quality products through a hurdle approach. So you've got these economic hurdles, these technological hurdles, these consumer acceptance hurdles, but essentially you reach these different product categories, new product successes through innovation and effort. Now you see the word labor, O-U-R. This is actually a British organization that created this PowerPoint. So expenses is one of the driving factors. Labor and hygiene is also very important. Not only labor from the consumer side, you don't want to have to cook that meal. You just want to open something and eat it, or minimally cook it, throw it in the microwave. It's already mostly prepared, or maybe you've got that steak that's already marinated and all you have to do is throw it on the fire. All kinds of things that are being done to make consumers have a more convenient choice, but it's also labor and hygiene on the manufacturing side as well that's driving this. So minimally processing is different from conventional processing in numerous ways. Conventional processing methods extend the shelf life of fruits and vegetables longer than minimally processed produce. So for example, a can of peaches might last potentially years, but due to modern date stamping, it's far more likely to only be a year or two for most canned goods. And if you're getting a fruit pack, you might have only days to eat that little fruit cup bowl or those apple slices in a pouch that you get with your drive-through meal, or any number of minimally processed things. They might last less time than their unprocessed counterparts. Sliced apples aren't going to last as long as just the whole apple. Once you slice it, you start the clock ticking much faster. Minimally processing also renders produce highly perishable, requiring chilled storage to ensure reasonable shelf life. That I think is pretty obvious. I can put an apple in the bowl on the middle of the table, but if I have an apple slices, now I got to put it in the refrigerator. If I have canned peaches versus sliced peaches, now I got refrigeration issues. All kinds of things change. If I have sliced bananas, I have to do something or the bananas will turn brown. So there are antioxidant things like lemon juice, which works great, but it changes the flavor too much. So we need another natural, healthful, non-browning antioxidant to use. Again, so many things that go into this. No heat is applied, or very minimal heat is applied, to maintain the fresh-like characteristics of minimally processed foods. There can be a quick heat blanching or some other things for surface sanitation or surface reduction in microbial activity, but we're not cooking. Canning, dehydrating, and freezing are typical conventional processes, and they can store for a very long time in many cases, and that's really the purpose. People grow a lot of food, produce a lot of food during the peak growing season, and then you can dehydrate, freeze, freeze dry, whatever. You process things into a stable form that you can eat through the winter and early spring before crops are available again from the next season's growth. Now, the newest one on this is freezing. There's a lot of processing that goes into freezing. You might think that's not really conventional processing, but it really is. There's more that happens to foods before they're frozen than you would realize. So what factors affect quality? The main factors of minimally processed produce are the harvesting operations, how the quality of harvesting techniques, the temperature when it was harvested, how quickly you get it to cooling, et cetera. The raw material itself, the variety of the plant you're growing. It's not just a tomato, it's a specific variety of tomato. And that's going to impact the ultimate quality of a processed food or minimally processed food. What about preparation? You trim, cut, peel, shred. There are lots of things that go into minimally processing that are not cooking steps that fall within this category to make snack packs and fruit cups, non-canned fruit cups, and salads and things of that sort. GMPs, good manufacturing practices, we've already talked about that. That certainly impacts your overall quality of the product as well as the safety. And the choices of packaging and storage techniques all go into significant quality impacts. So good quality raw materials are the starting point. And some materials just don't do well. As an example, one of the better varieties of crisp head lettuce, iceberg type lettuce in the grocery store was absolutely horrible in the bag. Once you cut it up, it did not store well in a cut bag of packaged salad. It would start to degrade very quickly. We never did get to the bottom of why that variety was doing that. It wasn't important enough. We just made the decision after there was no obvious explanation, move on. We're not growing that variety anymore. And because we never know where it's going to go. Even if we think it's going to go on a supermarket shelf where that variety was awesome, when harvest time comes around, 60 to 90 days after you plant that seed, things might change. You might have to change your mind and say, I'm not going to sell this to Safeway. I'm going to sell it to Fresh Express. And Fresh Express won't take it because it's not a variety that does well in a packaged salad. So raw materials, crucial. Correct variety, crucial. You got to grow it right, harvest it right, store it right. Everything has to be done right. Strict hygiene and GMPs, good hazard analysis, making sure, again, you have a safe product. If it's minimally processed, you don't have that safety net of cooking. You're not going to can it at high heat, high temperature, high pressure. That's going to kill anything that could possibly get in and contaminate it. The food safety practices for canning are very different than fresh. The minimally processed fresh material, you don't have a kill step in the vast majority of cases. So you got to be careful about not getting problems in there. What about low temperature during processing? That changes everything. Very expensive to keep an entire manufacturing facility, all the warehouses, everything is kept cold, refrigerated environment. It also is hard on a lot of the workers. What about careful cleaning and or washing before and after the peeling process? Certainly. There's a lot of peeling done on various types of fruits and vegetables that are part of this, and you've got to make sure that you get rid of any contamination after you've peeled. Good quality water. That's something that is region specific. Some areas have no problem with lots of good clean water. Other areas, not so much. It can change sensory properties. That's the taste and smell and feel in your mouth of the product. That's sensory, how your senses perceive it. And water can definitely impact the way things taste and smell. The microbiology, the pH, all of that can be an impact. Use of mild additives in washing water for disinfection and the prevention of browning. So there are different compounds like bleach or chlorine, ozone used as sanitizing agents, other types of Acidifiers can be used as antioxidants to prevent browning. You want to gently spin dry. It's kind of like a salad spinner operation where you don't spin it hard enough to damage the product, but you want to get rid of the water after you washed it. Gently peeling, cutting, slicing, shredding. The choice of packaging material and packaging methods. There's been so much work trying to figure out, how do I get this product to the consumer undamaged, where it's going to have good shelf life, good safety, and tons of work goes into the correct size and shape of packaging. Some things I've seen peaches with their own special foam pillows under every single one in a clamshell. So individually packaged peaches on a pillow, basically. For some varieties, that's important. If you're going to have a very high production value, valuable from a consumer standpoint, great flavor, but it's soft and needs delicate handling, you got to meet those needs. Strawberry clamshells, they keep the product safe, they keep the product packaged well, and they have air holes to allow moisture to escape, cold air to get in and circulate to keep them cool without getting soggy over time. Every product has its own special packaging that has the research to back it up. Correct temperatures. Lettuce wants it to be 33, 34. Tomatoes want it in the mid 50s or maybe low 60s. Bananas the same way, maybe low 60s is ideal for bananas. Everything has its ideal range. You get out of that range and bad things happen. You get tomatoes too cool, a gene kicks on that creates bad flavors in the tomato. So refrigerating tomatoes is actually bad for the flavor, horrible for the flavor. And you can't undo it. So if it's ever been refrigerated in transport, it's too late. The gene's turned on. Fresh market or farmer's market type of ripen on the vine are more likely to never have gone through improper refrigeration. Then you bring it home and stick it in the refrigerator, you ruined all that. The idea is they should be purchased and eaten quickly, but never put in the refrigerator unless there's half a tomato. And if it's a good tomato, I don't understand the concept of half a tomato anyway. Once you cut into a tomato, eat the damn thing. Correct temperature. Humidity is also important. Too dry, things can lose weight and dehydrate, get limp. Too moist, and you can increase food safety hazards or microbial decomposition by bacteria or fungi that can do post-harvest damage in storage. And you got to follow it all the way through. It's not just you as the grower or you as the processor. You've got to worry about your transportation trucking system and your warehouse system, companies that you're selling to, the retail outlets, the Safeways and Nob Hills and Food for Less and all of these other places. You got to make sure they're doing their part as well. So I'm going to take a quick break here and be right back.